Now then, you're very welcome back. So we are talking Arsenal. Very happy to bring in Andrew Mangan, creator of Arseblog. Andrew, great to have you on.
Hi Joe, how are you?
Well, listen, Arsenal, welcome back. It's been 6 years in other respects, 10 years of so-so times and dark times, and all of a sudden, Arsenal, everybody's second favourite team at the moment, playing beautiful football again as well. Not just effective, but beautiful, because frankly, Arsenal football for a long time had become a bit dull, and you must be a happy man right now.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a very nice position, I think in a position this season that not too many people expected Arsenal to be in. The football is good. There's plenty of potential. There's a lot that this team can still do to develop and get better. And with 10 games to go, to be pushing for a Champions League place, it's a very nice place to be, particularly after the start to the season that Arsenal had, which was pretty bad. There were some issues with the teams who were playing, Chelsea and Man City, of course, but it wasn't a promising start to the season. So to be where we are right now is excellent.
Well, I remember that Chelsea game in particular, more so for Lukaku. It was his real arrival, or return rather, to English football, his arrival at Chelsea, and he completely bullied Arsenal, and they were just fodder, to the point where even post-match Gary Neville and all the various pundits in Sky were saying, well, look, it's only Arsenal, let's not get too excited about Lukaku here. Wide open and seemed to be offering not very much in attack. So quite a bit has changed since then. Is that personnel or tactics or attitude or a bit of everything? What has happened this season, Andrew?
Bit of everything, I think. Certainly the team that played the first 3 games of the season was very different from the team that kicked off the next run, because there was an international break after that. And Arsenal brought in players. Aaron Ramsdale, Tomiyasu came in, Ben White, who was there, of course, but Martin Ødegaard came in as well before the end of the transfer window. So personnel changes were obvious. And I think it took a while to get going. It's still not perfect, but there was something that has built over the course of this season, that the team has come together. Some players have gone. They've really streamlined the squad. It's a very, very tight squad right now, with not a great deal of depth in some positions. But I think it's a group that is working together. The age profile of the squad was completely changed as well. When you think about some of the players that Arsenal had last season who frustrated or didn't do what Arsenal fans would have liked them to do, David Luiz, Willian, Aubameyang, who was beginning maybe his little bit of a decline. And all of a sudden you're looking at players like Saka, Smith Rowe, Martinelli, Ødegaard, Gabriel, Ben White. This age profile is completely changing now as well. So it's taken time over the course of the season. There's been some bumps in the road, but since that start to the season, those 3 games, I think Arsenal have been really, really consistent, and that is why they're sitting in 4th place right now.
For Arteta, I think he's proved a lot of people wrong, in part because he's a diminutive enough performer in the media, doesn't get too emotional, doesn't say anything terribly memorable, has a great stoicism, and so doesn't jump off the screen and impress as a figure to be reckoned with. I think where a lot of people looked at him and said, oh, there's real substance here as a manager, because obviously his playing career was very fine, but as a manager was when he took on Aubameyang and he won, and the results immediately after winning against Aubameyang were good as well. That was where I remember first really sitting up and taking notice of Arteta and saying, oh, this could be a bit different to previous Arsenal managers.
Well, I tell you what, he has been really consistent about what he wants from his players, and he gave a really good interview when he first joined. One of the last games that he had at Manchester City as Pep Guardiola's assistant was a 3-0 win for Man City at the Emirates, and it was just easy for City. It was a terrible Arsenal performance. City didn't have to work hard. They just went through the motions. And when he took over, and everyone knew he was coming at that point, when he took over, he talked about something being missing. He talked about a connection between the team and the fans being missing, and he inherited a lot of problems as well. But he's been consistent in what he wants, what he calls his non-negotiables, the buy-in to his methods, his tactics, the way, what he said is the way we live together as a team. And there've been some casualties along the way. It's not just Aubameyang. Matteo Guendouzi unceremoniously dropped and loaned out Mesut Ozil, one of the highest profile players in the world at that time. Again, something went on there. We don't know the details. It was an unpopular decision for many Arsenal fans because Ozil was still a bit of a hero to them, not to everyone, but he wasn't afraid to make those decisions. So that has been like a recurring theme. But of course, when you make those decisions, you've got to back them up with results and performances. And maybe that hasn't always been the case. With the Aubameyang thing this season, we've been better since he's gone. And that's not to downplay his quality as a player, what he brought to the club, his contributions. But certainly, Arteta made a decision, stuck by it. Aubameyang's having a great time in Barcelona. Arsenal are doing very well without him. Maybe we'll come to rue that lack of a striker between now and the end of the season. But this idea that Arteta is this is something new. He's been doing it ever since he arrived, literally paying players like Mustafi and Kolasinac and Sokratis and Ozil as well, paying them to go away because he didn't want them around. So there's been that hard line to some of the stuff that he's done.
It sounds like he's methodically had to root out the bad apples and fix the culture one player at a time. So if you take the form of late, which again is very impressive by any standards, 10 Premier League games, 7 wins, or 6 in their last 7. They've scored 17 goals. They've kept 5 clean sheets in there as well. Their 2 losses were to Man City and Liverpool. And even at the weekend, having lost to Liverpool, that didn't derail them or, stymie confidence to the effect that there was a hangover against Aston Villa. They rebounded straight away. Again, traditionally over the last decade, these may not have been qualities that we might have associated with Arsenal. What's so, for the neutral, and I'm sure it's especially true for the fans of the team, what's so likeable now about Arsenal? I mean, these 3, whoever they may be on a given day, in behind Lacazette, going to town, young players, expressive players, beautiful, creative players. This is getting back to what made Arsenal such a force 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really exciting part is the fact that in key positions we've strengthened the spine in a very considerable way. So Ramsdale, Ben White and Gabriel as the defensive spine, if you like, 23, 24 and 24. Midfield is a bit different, bit more experience with Thomas Partey, Granit Xhaka. But then ahead of that, Martin Ødegaard, who's 23, Smith Rowe, 20, Martinelli, 20, Bukayo Saka, 20. There's so much more to come from these players. There really is. Smith Rowe and Saka are in double figures for goals this season, which for two 20-year-olds is absolutely fantastic. And I think that is where the real encouragement comes from, because there are a couple of key positions at Arsenal right now that need to be addressed in the transfer market in the summer. Everybody knows what they are. The main one, of course, is striker. And if Arsenal can bring in a high-quality player in there, and you've got Ødegaard, Saka, Martinelli, Smith Rowe behind an effective presence up front, I mean, where could they go at their age? That is the thing. There is potential in this team to get even better. And that, regardless of what happens, I think, between now and the end of the season, that I think is something that we as Arsenal fans can hang on to and think, okay, if we can do it with these guys at this age, when they become a bit more mature, more developed, more streetwise, more savvy, whatever you want to call it, when you've got that bit more experience, like the sky is the limit for some of these guys.
The Ramsdale mistake was a touch costly, naturally, against Liverpool. What kind of season has he had more generally, Andrew?
Very good. He won people over. There was a lot of skepticism about him when he was being touted as a signing, because people didn't really think goalkeeper was an issue for Arsenal. 24 million for a guy who's been relegated twice. There was a lot of skepticism, but he came in and won the fans over very quickly. He's been excellent. His personality is huge. Even the mistake against Liverpool, I don't think that will negatively affect him. We've seen him make a couple of errors, as goalkeepers do, but he's not one of those who immediately goes into a shell. He's been really important in the way that Arsenal play this season as well, because with the ball at his feet, he's been superb. Short passing, long passing, clip balls into midfield, these kind of daisy cutters that he plays up the wing, the variety of pass that he has in his locker is I've never seen it from an Arsenal goalkeeper before. And it wasn't long ago we were dealing with Petr Cech and Bernd Leno. Unai Emery came in and wanted Arsenal to play out from the back, and he wanted Petr Cech to do that. Petr Cech couldn't do it. He nearly scored an own goal in the first game against Man City, and we got Bernd Leno, and Bernd Leno felt like, wow, in pure footballing terms, with the ball at his feet, this is a big upgrade. Ramsdale is next level again. So he has been absolutely superb as well. He's been an important part of this team, and I think there were scenes at the end of the Villa game where he was there. He was injured, couldn't play, but wanted to go along and was first over to congratulate Bernd Leno at the end. So when we talk about something that's growing, this connection between the team, within the team itself, and between the team and the fans, small things like that are part of what Arteta has tried to grow at the club.
There were numerous occasions over the last couple of years where many of us would have thought, well, Xhaka will be out the door. It's just not quite working out. And he seems to have redeemed himself somewhat. How's he playing to your eye?
He's always going to be a quite divisive figure among Arsenal fans because he's just got this track record, this history of crazy red cards and that mad incident against Crystal Palace. And he reminds me a little bit of Olivier Giroud in a sense, in that he's very good at what he does, but he was always a player that people are looking for an upgrade on. Giroud was a 20-goal-a-season striker, and Arsenal fans were going crazy because they wanted that superstar up front. He's been good, I think, this season. He's playing in the last couple of months in a more advanced role, further forward in midfield. So maybe some of the weaknesses that he has in his game, where he's turned around, he's running back towards his own goal, he's trying to defend, that's not really his strength. So he's been pushed forward. I think himself and Thomas Partey work very well together as a midfield duo. It would be wrong to talk about Xhaka without talking about Partey, who's been excellent in the last couple of months after, taking a while to settle in and deal with some injuries and everything else. So I do think Xhaka has benefited from Partey, but I also think Partey benefits from Xhaka as well. And the team, because it is so young, it does need a couple of men in there. You know what I mean? It needs those 28, 29-year-olds just to provide that bit of presence, that bit of authority, that bit of experience. And those two have been very good in recent weeks.
Well, watching them a lot over the last decade, the team just didn't make sense all that often. There was a lot of chopping and changing, and increasingly all the studies in various sports point to cohesion as being one of the most important aspects of a successful team. And this feels like the first season in I don't know how long, Andrew, where most of us can reel off the likely Arsenal 11, give or take a name or two, whichever of those three play behind Lacazette, for instance. But suddenly it makes sense, and as you said, there's a balance between the spine of the team and Partey and Xhaka, and then the three kids in front doing their thing, and Lacazette hopefully chipping in with a goal. You just look at that and you say, okay, I can see how all of these pieces might work together. And it always looks so simple when it's done well and a team just makes sense. And I'm sure there were times over the last 5-6 years where you were looking at a mishmash and different teams every second week and wondering, where is a strong 11 going to emerge out of here?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I think in part this is because there is a small squad right now, so there isn't a great deal that he can do. He's got players who are basically backup players for the first 11, and apart from the one from Martinelli, Smith Rowe, or Saka, who has to miss out if they're playing three behind a striker. Apart from that, they're just backup players, so it does kind of pick itself. But sort of speaking about cohesion, I think another way we could look at it is strategy, and what Arsenal have done in the transfer market last summer. It's probably the first time in a long time where there's been a definite strategy, where they went out and they bought players of a certain age to fit into a group, to grow, to develop, rather than this sort of firefighting approach to recruitment, where they go, oh my God, what are we going to do? And you end up buying Shkodran Mustafi for £35 million on the last day of the transfer window, which nobody can turn around in hindsight and say, well, that was good planning, wasn't it? So there's been, I think, an acceptance at the very top that you have to have some kind of plan. And maybe you have to go through some difficult times, and maybe you have to go through a difficult period with a young manager to be able to implement that plan. And I think that is something that Arsenal experienced last season. Arsenal finished 8th again, which wasn't really great. It came off the back of a really poor period at the start of the season, or midway through the season, where they couldn't win a game for love nor money. But since then, I think things have been improving and consistently been improving in terms of the consistency, and certainly the recruitment that was done last summer will give Arsenal fans faith that this summer, regardless of whether Arsenal finish in the Champions League places or not at the end of this season, there'll be some faith that they can get it right again and take the team to a different level.
Yeah, well, I think fans have a real patience in sticking with the manager once it's the right manager. And where impatience starts to creep in is when those suspicions arise that, well, we're wasting time here with the dud. And clearly the powers that be recognised in Arteta, this guy's worth sticking with. And so they've stuck with him, and it's really borne fruit. Ødegaard has been such a joy to watch of late. I mean, every time you watch an Arsenal match, just his movement, 5 yards this way, 5 yards another way, he can unlock defences. And then when he does get the ball, boy, can he pick a pass and vision and has a bit of pace, and he can finish and do it all. He's going to be a superstar. How do they swoop in for him? I mean, I'm sure somebody at Real Madrid is saying, how did we let this one go away?
It's a question I've been asking myself. I'm very glad that nobody did, because he's been brilliant. I love watching him. I thought he was very good during the loan spell last season, but he did have some injury issues, some issues with consistency. But I saw enough during that period to know that he could bring something to this Arsenal team. And it feels like he, after joining Real Madrid at 15, he had some loan spells. He had a very good loan spell at Real Sociedad, for example. It feels like he's at home now. He's found a club where he's going to play for the next 5 or 6 years, hopefully more, where he can really develop and be part of a young team. But I think in some ways he's like a senior part of the young element of the team, if you like, because he's 23, 24. He's had this period at Real Madrid. It didn't quite go as well as he would have liked, I'm sure. I'm sure when he joined there, he had visions of, turning out at the Bernabeu every week and winning the Champions League or whatever it might be. And some people might say, well, coming to Arsenal at this point is a step down, but sometimes a club and a player don't always fit. And right now it feels like Ødegaard and Arsenal are a great fit. He's been better than I thought he was going to be. He's scoring goals, he's assisting. And I think one of the things that people really like about him is he can combine the craft and the vision in the final third while also putting in the hard yards, not just defensively, but deeper in the midfield, connecting the play, keeping things ticking over with Xhaka, with Partey, moving the ball. He's just been fantastic to watch. And he's a fun player. And Arsenal haven't had too many fun players over the last little while. He's now feeling like he can do those little tricks and flicks, and they're coming off. And it's fun to watch. I think sometimes we forget that you need that little bit of artistry in football to really connect with it, and he's certainly done that this season for Arsenal. Yeah,
I heard Liam Brady talking on Eamon Dunphy's podcast recently, and he was saying Ødegaard, in his opinion, for a time, wasn't given the forward pass enough, and now has really started doing that. And I mean, he certainly would have always had the ability to give a forward pass. Maybe it is that sense of increasingly feeling at home. And, maybe for those 3 creative players, or the 4, if you want to throw in Martinelli as well, with no great hierarchy there. There's no Ronaldo saying, well, I'm going to obviously be the dominant force here, I'll take the majority of the passes. There's almost a freedom of expression, as in, well, we're 3-4 kids here, we're all equals in a sense, so we're all going to get in on the act. There's no, like I said, dominant force subjugating the others to his every whim.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't really thought about it like that. There is a sort of egalitarian nature to this young team, and I think that's probably part of why they decided to go that way. Like, they tried the quick fix thing so many times, Arsenal. They tried the grizzled veterans who could maybe drag you over the line, but it didn't work. It didn't work for Unai Emery. It didn't work when Mikel Arteta did it with David Luiz and Willian. There was some success, obviously, with the FA Cup. But if you're going to build something and if you're going to grow something, you need you need players who are willing to buy in, who can stay together, work together, live together. And they're really enjoying it. You can see that they're enjoying it, and that's evident in the way that they play and the results that Arsenal are churning out right now.
Just got to keep them together for the next 10 years when bidders come in.
That's it. Easy though, right?
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah. Listen, great to catch up and check in, and let's see what happens over the next number of games. The fixture list for Arsenal isn't devastatingly grim, so they are odds-on favourite to make Champions League at this stage. Andrew Mangan of Arseblog, thanks so much, Andrew. Much appreciated.
Cheers, Joe. Talk to you soon.
Thanks. And our football show coverage is brought to you by Sky. All the football you love in one place across Sky Sports, BT Sport and Premier Sports. The Arsenal fixture list, by the way, is Crystal Palace away. Then they have Brighton at home. Then they have Southampton away. You would think good opportunities there. Then it's Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. They have Manchester United coming to the Emirates. They're away to West Ham. Then they have Leeds at home. They have Newcastle away. Then they have Everton at home. And at some stage, date to be confirmed, the game was postponed, they'll play Spurs away. So that's the Arsenal fixtures for the remainder of the season. Not horrific by any means. And they were 8th last season, 8th the season before, and suddenly looking at 4th now.